Another thing I want to talk about is this is this staff and space. This is basically the theme from this latest Task Force for Mass Critical Care Summit. And they've just released their findings in Chest Journal just this month. And what they recommend is that every hospital that can increase their critical capacity by 3 times whatever they currently have. So if you can say, if you have an ICU with 20 stations, they want you to be able to figure out a way that you could care for 60 if you had to in a pinch. And they say that's really stretching it, but they say that is probably the absolute limit. There's no way to plan for more than that, but they're thinking, somewhere between 2 and 3 times is achievable by, using innovative ideas. Like some of the things that I've heard about is you could get veterinarians to come in. They know how to run ventilators. You can cancel all your elective surgeries. You can use the ventilators from that you would have used for the surgery, and also to care for the post-anesthetic care patients. You can use them for pandemic use, and you can have emergency medical technicians come in. You can train people like biomeds or other people that can learn quickly equipment, and they would just do the equipment, and you would have, say, nurses do the suctioning and that other care. And you could, in fact, it is possible to stretch your capabilities, but you have to plan ahead for that. And they also say you should have the ability to ventilate in every one of these expanded spaces. And they talk about, well, the financial implications of that, buying that many ventilators and not many, hospitals. Most hospitals, we have all the budget crunches. In the U.S., it's no different. They have to justify it at a profit basis. They can't justify making any money doing that. So chances are it won't happen. But I think this is possibly an alternative, because people aren't going to do it. Everybody says we should do this, but when you come right to the very limit, and if a pandemic comes, everybody's going to go, oh no, it's too late. We can't order them now. We can't buy them. We have to do something. And there's some very desperate plans in place. They say, we'll bag everybody, and we'll get volunteers to come in. Well, that isn't going to work, because you're going to get 5 times as many people infected by bagging them, bringing all these people in and out of the ICU. Another one that's actually been published in a peer-reviewed journal, I forget which one, suggested that you could take one ventilator and ventilate 4 people, 4 people at a time on it. And the publishers of this, the writers of this don't really like that idea. They don't think it'll actually work. I like the recommendations, because 1 year ago I said exactly the same thing on my weblog. I said, that it doesn't matter how many ventilators you have, it's how much staff that you can make it work with, and then that's how many ventilators you should plan for. Don't worry about how bad the pandemic is going to be. You should be able to plan for the worst case, and what is the worst case, and have equipment to do that. And the other thing I said right down there, I suggested as well that go to a factor of 3. So what do we go from here? This is how far we are. We've got kind of a working thing. I guess you could use it if you really had to, but it really should have more work on it. So we should have improved designs. This other one, this one, the guy that in the U.S. that I'm working with, this engineer, he called his ventilator Vinny. We give them all names. This one here we call Norman, and the other one that I made before I call it Max. And we're naming them after people that made some of those wooden iron lungs in the 40s and 50s and that sort of thing. And so when I find them, I think of somebody that did some really good, something that I like. I name a ventilator design after him. And so anyway, this one is this guy is really good at make look really good. He's still using a Ziploc bag. I haven't got him convinced yet. I sent him some PD bags, but his design is a little bit more sophisticated than mine, and not as sophisticated as Jeff. Jeff's is technologically more sophisticated, but his looks nicer. And basically, there's the microprocessor. That's just a mock-up. It eventually would be a custom-made board, and it would have a little keypad and a screen on the front, so that you could put in all the information. You can set all your rates, and maximum pressures and inspiration, expiration ratios and all that, and it would be able to work on pressure, pressure or volume, whatever you decide to do. And this is his menu that he's proposing for that whole menu system. There's basically what it would look like in a little box, a lot more compact. And this is the front of it here in 3 sections. So the electronics would be at the bottom. The bag would be in a slide-out unit in the middle so that you could change it if you had to. Controls at the top and everything inside over here. The other thing that we were thinking of is with that design is it's very nice for a third world ventilator. Like, we take our old ventilators from here and they're junk. We don't like them anymore, so we say, well, why don't we give them to some hospital in Kenya or something, right? Well, you know, that's a nice thing to do, but they really can't look after the stuff either. They use them for a few months, a year or two maybe, and then finally it breaks, and they have no technology to fix it. They can't do it. It's really not sustainable. It's something that helps, but it's not a sustainable solution. And we think that this is a sustainable solution for third world ventilators. You could make these little cards. They can make them themselves. They could get the valves and do all that other stuff. So the idea with it is you make all the really complicated stuff in the electronics, and everything else is simple, so that they can maintain the simple stuff. If the electronics breaks, they put it in a little padded envelope, they send it back to somebody here, and you would find, say, service groups here, you know, that would sponsor 5 ventilators in a hospital in Africa or something like that. And then they would take care of maintaining it and doing supplies and that sort of thing. And that's down the road. We haven't really gone. It's just an idea that we have. And I'd really like to have more people designing it. You know, basically everybody that we have right now, we don't really have anybody that's in the that works with ventilators every day. Like, I'm in dialysis. I have to learn all of this to do it. And Jeff knows the control systems and that, but he has to learn it as well. This guy in the U.S., I'm on email all the time, you know, telling him, oh, you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way. And I have some RTs and such from you know, that advise me from time to time, and I can email them and ask them questions. But the other thing that I want to get back to the space, supplies, and staff. 3 S's from that other recommendation. If you're short on any of these things, if you don't have enough space to put people in, you can't care for them. If you don't have supplies, then or equipment, you're stuck, and if you don't have the staff to run them. So you have to take care of each one of them and not go overboard on one. You know, it's got to be a balanced approach. And Dr. Liu came up with 3 more S's that I really like. And for space, you can't just have enough space like we have now. You know, when we run out of space, what do? We just cram another bed in. We stick somebody in the hallway. We do that. You really have to think about it, you know, for pandemic planning for space, because you can't just stick your pandemic flu patients in the same room with your seasonal flu patients, for instance. You'd have to test them all before, and you have to, you know, there's a lot of things. So you have to, you know, otherwise you're going to make the problem worse. And supplies, of course, goes back to space again, because we need storage. We get to have storage. But how much storage do we have in this hospital? Nothing. And the other one, the last one is, that I really like, is self-preservation. And this is sort of the thing that people don't want to talk about, but you have to address it. And staff is really, they're not going to do a good job if they feel threatened to come into work. So you have to make sure you have good, you know, protective equipment and policies in place to protect them. And you know, otherwise they're going to stay home, and you have to keep them healthy as well. And hopefully what we plan for is better than what Hollywood thinks is going to happen anyway.
Could I just interrupt you for just since I gave you